We're discussing today how software development projects fail. And what I'm going to discuss with you today actually goes for any tech project because they all fail along the same lines. From my many years of experience in software development, I found that there are some projects that go incredibly well. They're magnificent projects, they get launched, they make money, they work exactly as their users or their owners intended them to work. And then there are some that fail completely and they look like good pieces of software, but they just never take off. Let me compare it to building a house. Before you build a house, you find a block of land that's in an area that you might want to live in or that other people might want to live in. You decide on the house that you want to build, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what color bricks, what color are the cabinets in the kitchen. You decide how many power points you want and where those power points are going to be, and a myriad of other decisions that are made well in advance. Once those decisions are made, then you put everything down on your blueprints and everything is drawn out exactly in the dimensions that it's supposed to be. The engineering can be done to make sure the slab is the right size and all the rest of it gets done. And only once all of that is complete and you have a permit to build, then the builder starts. A software development is, or at least should be, exactly the same. Not always though. We often shortcut that step and we do it because maybe the client is insisting that we just get into it and I know exactly what I want, can we just start? Or perhaps we do it because in software, it can seem easy to fix something, to go back and change it. It's not like if you get a house wrong and you built too many bedrooms, pulling them out is hard to do, or you didn't build enough bathrooms, well, just add one onto the side. It's not that easy. With software development, it's a little bit easier, but not necessarily all the time. And it still can be expensive and it can still be a terrible waste of money. And let me give you some examples so you know what I'm talking about. And these are things that have actually happened. So you might find that a professional in a particular industry is running into a particular problem in their particular business that they know happens to them all of the time. And they envision a piece of software that will solve that problem for them. So they request a developer build that. The developer goes ahead and builds it, solving that exact problem for that person. And indeed, it does do that. It solves the problem for that person. But what that person forgot to do was survey anybody other than themselves. They asked themselves, do I need this piece of software? The answer was yes. They asked their wife, they asked their best friend, they asked their mum. Everybody said, great idea. What they didn't do was survey the people who would actually be using it. Who do they want to sell this piece of software to? Do they actually need it? And in not doing that, they missed a couple of important points. One is that other people don't run into exactly the same problem. Perhaps they have a system in place that avoids that problem, or perhaps they just don't see it as a problem at all and don't need anything. Or perhaps they have a piece of software already that solves that exact thing for them, and they're happy with that piece of software, so why would they change? So these are all things that could have been found out. And this is not an untypical story. This is a story that happens, I hate to say it, fairly often. Money gets invested, time gets invested, and the product is shipped to the market and nobody wants it. So whose fault is this? Is it the client's fault? Well, yes, definitely it's partly the client's fault. The client should have done their due diligence. They should have said, hey, I do want to make sure that this is actually needed. They should have done their surveys. They should have asked more than their best friend, is this needed? They should have themselves insisted that the software developer do the work that's needed to figure out what to do. The developers themselves, the project manager, the salesperson, everybody on that line should have been more insistent. Do you actually need this feature to do this thing? Why do you need that? Hold them to it. Find out. It's a little bit like if you take your car to a mechanic and the car's not working and the mechanic replaces the fan belt, but the fan belt was never the problem. It's a little bit like that. So this is how we should do it. Start with a survey. Ask a lot of people, might be hundreds, could even be 1,000 people in the industry, potential users. Figure out who that user is, what's their persona, ask them. Is this something you run into? Is this something that you would buy? Is this a problem that you need to solve in some way? How much would you think this is worth to you? All of those sorts of questions. Have a look on the market. Is there anything else that does something similar? Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't buy it. You shouldn't build it. And I'll give you an example. I had a client once who had a great idea for a piece of software, did all the surveys, did all of the planning correctly, built the piece of software, but then just as they were about to launch, found out that another company had done something very, very similar, almost exactly the same, into the same market, around the same price point, had just beaten them to the market. And they said, oh, let's abandon the whole thing. Well, no, that's not right. What it means is that the idea was good enough that someone else had a similar idea. So we know that it's something that was probably wanted in that market. And so they went ahead and sure, they split the market, but the market was big enough for both of them, so it didn't matter. So you have to decide, what are the features that I want? What do I want this piece of software to do? Name it all out. And I'm talking about the client here, the client doing this. They survey, they decide all of the features and lay everything on the table, even the wild ones, even the ones that are, yeah, that might be a good thing for the future. Just name them all out. Who are your typical users going to be? And don't forget that even though there's external users, there might be clients or customers or people out there that are going to use it. There's also people internal that are going to use it, the administrators, people like that, understand what those different groups are. What is your budget? Now, when you're trying to figure out your budget, it's usually higher than you think, sorry to say. You have to figure in, okay, what is the cost of the software? But also, what is the cost of all of the third-party things that are going to attach to it? In other words, how much do I have to pay for my accounting software, my credit card processing fees, my email sending? All of this sort of stuff is all part and parcel of what you're going to have to spend money on. The infrastructure, where am I going to put it so that it serves out to the greater public? Amazon or, whatever company you're going to use. Ongoing maintenance, there's no such thing as a piece of software similar to a house, again, that doesn't need to be maintained constantly. And that's that is probably another monthly fee that you're going to have to understand. Future iterations, whatever you build, guarantee the users are going to want more, and they will ask for that, and they will keep signing up to your product so long as you keep providing them with the features they're interested in. So you might want to invest in future development. Marketing, here's one that's always forgotten. If you've got a product that's going to go to a broad number of people and you don't have their buy-in before you start, you'd better have a budget for marketing, because there's no other way you're going to reach it. You can write the world's greatest piece of software, launch it out onto the market and have no one buy it. Why? Because they don't know it exists. So marketing is a very important part of your budget. Planning the marketing, executing the marketing, following up and redoing and, all of this. And then you have to pay staff as you're doing this and the thing is building up. So you have to factor all of that into it. Okay, that's the owner's side of it. What about the software developers themselves? They have the responsibility to make sure all of those things are done. They have the responsibility to grab all of those features that we just talked about, even the wild ones, and prioritize them or help you to prioritize them. What are the things that we need on day one? What can wait till a year later, or what might we never need? And you have to push back and challenge every one of those. Do we really need this? Is this actually essential? And this is a topic for another day. It's called the minimum viable product. We'll discuss it in another video, but for now, just understand that that has to be collated, understood, pushed back against. There has to be a clear architecture, understood. All of those third parties, as I said before, all of the various pieces that fit together to make a piece of software, stuff that a client or a customer would never ever see or understand or know about unless they were extremely technical themselves, figuring out all of those and presenting all of that to our client and saying, hey, this is what that cost is going to look like if you do all of these things. Understanding how those pieces fit together and what we would have to do in advance and what we would have to do later. All of these things are important to a client. They might not understand it. So there's the whole discovery phase that needs to be done. Once that's complete, then we move on to a wireframe. A wireframe is putting the different screens together, not necessarily beautifully or aesthetically, but just enough so that you can see what's happening screen to screen to screen. And this starts to figure out where those features are, how they look, and again, helps us to understand, are they really needed? Once that's done, we turn that into something that looks nice, add in the fonts and the colors and some images and that sort of stuff. And we're nowhere near building software yet. We're still working things out. This is still, the blueprint stage, I guess you'd call it. And then once that's complete, The client has to review every single thing, sit on it, look at it, understand it, take it around to all of the stakeholders. There could be many, many of these. Survey some of the potential users of it and say, hey, would you use this piece of software? Is this something you would do? Can you figure out how to do the particular thing that you might need on a day-to-day basis with this? Do all of that. And then once there's agreement on that, and it might not be 100%, but let's say, basically you have agreement from the CEO down, then you write out the scope line by line, and then you can decide if there's anything to take out based on cost, and then you can start building. Get it all right to start with. You'll save time, you'll save money, and potentially avoid a disaster. All of this back and forth is important. If you don't do it, you will end up in trouble. And even while you're building, continually compare what's being built to that original documentation. Are we on track here? The developers absolutely should be doing that constantly, but you as a product owner should do that as well. If you do all of those things, you will have the potential of winning, and you still might get it wrong from time to time. There might be, there are many opportunities to not be successful, but there's also many opportunities to be really, really successful at this as well. Let's just summarize these points. Tech projects fail when you don't do enough planning in advance. If you do the planning in advance, you give your tech project, your software application, the chance of succeeding. The second point is this: building features does not mean it's going to be successful. You fail to plan in the first place, you fail to understand the marketing needed, you fail to have the budget required to see the whole thing through, or to even understand what that budget is going to be, the thing could fail again. And if you don't understand what that final outcome is going to look like, then for sure you will never reach that point. Thank you.